On October 30, 2025, the Trump administration finished making big changes to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, or PSLF. These new rules could make many nonprofit groups not count anymore. This means their workers, who often take lower pay because they were promised their loans would be forgiven, might suddenly not qualify. The main change is that the Secretary of Education can now stop employers from being part of PSLF if they are found to have substantial illegal purposes. Critics say this phrase is too broad and dangerous. Legal experts are worried this could become a political tool, used to punish organizations the government doesn't like. These rules start on July 1, 2026, and they undo the changes made during the Biden years that made loan forgiveness easier to get. Nonprofit organizations are worried they'll lose a key way to find new staff, which could make it harder for them to attract and keep talented people. This video will look closely at these new rules, hear arguments from both sides, and explain what's at stake for the future of public service in America. The PSLF program was created in 2007 to encourage graduates to work in public service. It promised to forgive federal student loans after 10 years of working and making payments that qualified. This program has helped people working in schools, hospitals, and legal aid clinics. It made public service careers possible for those with a lot of student debt. Nonprofit groups have depended on PSLF to attract talented people, even when private sector jobs paid more. But the program's history has been bumpy. Complicated rules and poor management meant many borrowers didn't qualify, which caused a lot of frustration. The Biden administration made changes that allowed more people to qualify and made the process simpler, leading to a big increase in loan forgiveness. Now, the Trump administration's new rules threaten to undo this progress. They're bringing politics into what was supposed to be a simple deal. Serve your community, and your debt will be forgiven. Millions of people who built their careers on this promise are now facing a lot of uncertainty. These new rules could completely change the agreement between the government and public servants. So, these new rules give the Secretary of Education the power to kick employers out of the PSLF program if they're found to have substantially illegal purposes. And here's the big thing. It doesn't even need a court conviction, just a preponderance of evidence, which is a much lower bar. Critics are saying this opens the door for decisions based on politics, where organizations could lose their eligibility just because of accusations or investigations, not actual proven wrongdoing. Nonprofits can appeal, but they often have to agree to a corrective action plan that the Department of Education tells them to do. Advocacy groups are worried this could force organizations to go along with government policies, using their employees' financial future as a bargaining chip. Before, PSLF eligibility was based on clear, fair rules. Now, it's up to whoever is the secretary to decide. This adds a lot of uncertainty and instability to a program that was supposed to give public servants a clear path forward. These new rules basically change PSLF from a neutral benefit into a tool for political decisions. For nonprofits and their workers, the stakes are super high. The government has hinted it will go after organizations involved in activities it sees as illegal or controversial, especially those linked to progressive causes. Groups that offer gender-affirming healthcare, particularly for young people, have been clearly named as possible targets. Nonprofit organizations working with immigrants, including those providing legal help and resettlement services, could also lose their PSLF eligibility if accused of supporting undocumented immigration. The rule mentions illegal discrimination and support for terrorist organizations, but critics say these terms are vague and can be interpreted in many ways. This creates a chilling effect, as organizations fear being targeted for their advocacy or humanitarian work. The lack of clear definitions gives the government a lot of power to decide what counts as public service. For many nonprofits, the threat of being disqualified is now a constant worry. The Trump administration framed these new rules as a way to protect taxpayers and make sure PSLF only helped true public servants. Officials argued that federal loan forgiveness shouldn't go to employees of organizations involved in illegal activities. Supporters say this closes a loophole and stops taxpayer money from helping criminal groups pretending to be nonprofits. The government insists decisions will be based on facts, not politics. For many, this fulfills a campaign promise to keep a closer eye on nonprofits and crack down on groups seen as dangerous. Supporters see these rules as necessary protection, not an overreaction. Critics say these new rules turn the Department of Education into a weapon against political opponents. Civil rights groups are worried that the unclear language and weak evidence rules make the system easy to abuse. By threatening PSLF eligibility, the government could pressure nonprofits to censor themselves or stop working on difficult issues. Opponents say this hurts free speech and the independence of community groups. Lawsuits are already happening, with advocacy groups calling these rules unconstitutional and a dangerous example. The worry is, if one government can target progressive nonprofits, the next one could target conservative ones. The result is instability and a chilling effect across the entire nonprofit sector. The most direct impact falls on nonprofit employees, many of whom chose lower pay in exchange for the promise of PSLF. Now, years of service and payments could be wiped out if their employer is disqualified. Workers face a tough choice: stick with their mission-driven organization and risk losing loan forgiveness, or leave for a more stable, higher-paying job. This could cause a brain drain from the nonprofit sector, hurting organizations that rely on experienced and passionate staff. The broad language of the rule means any nonprofit employee could worry their employer might be next. For many, this feels like a betrayal of a government promise. This uncertainty discourages new graduates from entering public service and pushes veterans to leave. The result: a weaker, less stable nonprofit workforce. This new rule threatens to put a damper on advocacy and new ideas across the whole nonprofit world. Organizations might avoid touchy subjects, soften what they say in public, or drop lawsuits to keep their employees' PSLF eligibility safe. This self-censorship makes civil society weaker and makes it harder for nonprofits to challenge the government or help people who are often left out. Getting and keeping good people will suffer because PSLF becomes a benefit you can't count on. The sector could become more obedient and less willing to tackle tough problems. The power to give or deny PSLF eligibility becomes a tool to make everyone think the same way. In the end, this rule risks hurting how independent and effective America's nonprofit organizations are. These new PSLF rules cast a shadow over the future of public service and student debt relief. For students and graduates, a career in the nonprofit sector now comes with bigger financial risks. If talented people are discouraged from public service, our schools, hospitals, and community groups will struggle to help people. These rules threaten not just individual borrowers, but the entire system of public service. Nonprofits provide important services that governments and businesses often don't. Making their workers unstable hurts millions of people who depend on them. As legal battles loom, the future of PSLF, and the promise it represents, hangs in the balance. This discussion is about more than just loans. It's about the kind of society we want to build.